Hi, my name is Sam and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've watched this channel before, you can tell that something is different today because in this soft-spoken video today I am back home, back in my family home, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But before we start, it would be amazing if you could give this video a thumbs up, if you could subscribe, and also if you could leave a little comment, even just a smiley face, because this really helps my channel and my video be pushed out into the world. And now let's start. So I am back home for my cousin's christening, and I was planning to make a video on the experience when I'm back in London. But then it's Monday today, my mum is at work, and yes, I did conveniently bring my little microphone with me just in case I had a bit of extra time to film. And yes, here I am, and I thought I would make a little video not on the christening but on my life here back home. I am originally from a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere in the north of Italy. The most famous city close to me is Bologna, but my village is actually smack in the middle between Bologna and Ferrara, if you know that. So I thought I would bring you backstage to where it all began. Now I'm using a very old phone to film, and I can't flip the camera while I'm filming because I would like to show you around a little bit, not the house but outside. So I'll see what I can do. I'll bring you with me, and I might just have to keep the camera on this front camera mode, and then I will move with you. So, as you can tell, I look rough now. Nothing bad has happened. So the christening was yesterday, but I don't even drink, I don't do drugs, it's nothing related to that. It's just that I've noticed that when I come back home, I start looking puffy and tired every time, and I think it's because my tiredness gets released. It just floods out of my body because obviously I feel that I have fewer responsibilities here because I don't have to worry about my usual London things. So I think my body just relaxes, and all the tiredness that I accumulate when I'm in London because of the long hours that I work, because I'm a singing drag queen and I do ASMR and a few other things on the side as well. So yes, I don't have much time to sleep, and when I get home, I'm constantly sleepy. I just want to sleep all day long, not because I don't want to be here, but again, just because my body finds a bit of release. Now, while I was talking, you may have heard a weird noise. My mum has riddled this house with air fresheners. So there are air fresheners buffing out the the gas constantly. So I do apologise. There is quite a bit of noise going around as well. I don't have much control over that. You may be able to hear the clock ticking as well. This is not a glammed up version of my videos. When I'm back home in London, I have more control over these things. So you will hear a few disturbing noises here and then. Here and there, and so yes, again, I'm not going to talk about the christening, but I just want to take you back to where it all began. And it's really strange for me not to come back home, but so I live in London now, but I come from this village of 500, potentially 700 now, but 100 inhabitants. It's a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere. Here's a freshener again. And this is all I know. Well, this is all I knew when I lived here. And it's insane for me to know that now I live in a big city. So when I come home, it really feels like a life that doesn't belong to me, not only because it's been 14 years, but also because the setup is completely different here. I will show you in a minute that my room and my living room overlook an empty field. There is nothing. We have the main square. It's only the main square because we only have that one square, so it's not because it's more important than any other squares. It's just that there is no competition. We have only one bus, I think, that comes along once in the morning, which is the bus that they used to take to go to school, and that most people take to go to work. One in the evening to take people back from the city. And I think, well, at least when I lived here, there was a service where you could call and book an extra little bus that would come along every hour, so not whenever you wanted it to, but you had to book it in advance. So if I know today that tomorrow I need this little bus or coach, even at, I don't know, 12:15, I can call them now to book it, and tomorrow it will come along. So transport here is basically non-existent. If you live here, you must have a car. So it's very common for families to at least have 2 cars, one for the mum, one for the dad. And then if you have children, obviously they need a car as well, because there is no way around it. It's not even a choice. You must have a car. Or when you are younger, you can have a moped. As much of a princess as people think I am, I used to drive a moped, and it got me everywhere because I had no other way of moving around. So I used to go to my dance classes, I used to go to my psychologist. That was a long journey because her practice was 20 kilometers from here, and on a moped where you can't. So here in Italy, we use kilometers, and the official maximum speed is 50 kilometers per hour, which is very, very slow. And I'm such a stickler for rules that I would never go beyond that. So it took me quite a while to get to her practice. And yes, I went everywhere with this moped. It really saved my life because my mum was obviously willing to drive me everywhere, even to my friends' houses. But obviously I felt terrible because I didn't want to impose so much, and also it made me feel free, so it was great. My brother, on the other hand, who is a mechanic and he is a real man, he had his driving license, but he very rarely used his moped, and I don't know why. He always had an excuse. It was too hot, too cold. Here the weather is horrendous. This is potentially the worst weather that I can think of, because it's excruciatingly hot in the summer, and it's freezing cold in the winter, and it's much worse than London. So England has this terrible reputation for its terrible weather. Now, all over England that is the case, but in London specifically that is not the case. Don't ask me why. Maybe it's because it's a big city, so there's a lot of pollution that sort of changes the normal climate that we would have in the UK. I don't know, but London is never too cold. It's never as cold as here in the winter, and it's never too hot. Now, in the winter here in Bologna, the cold, I can't describe it. It's so sharp, it's so relentless, and it soaks into your bones. So you feel it even after you've gone inside. So if you're outside, you soak up all the cold, and then you still feel it when you are indoors. In London, it's different. In London, it's cold outside, but the moment you are inside, it's gone. I think, well, here it's extremely humid. It's humid, it's terrible. And in the summer, it's so hot here that you sweat in the shower, and if you lean back against the back of the chair, you sweat. Now, it is June here, and I never really come here in June. I'm only here for my cousin's christening, but in the summer, usually it's unbearable. I do not like the heat. That's why I don't like the heat. I was traumatized my whole life. Now, because of climate change, I suppose it is hot, but it is very pleasant. It's not as sizzling and sweltering hot as I remember summers here to be. Also, when I come here in July, for example, because I usually come in July, it's hot, but it's not the case now. So for the first time in my life, actually, this is enjoyable. I can't believe I am enjoying wearing summer clothes, because obviously it's hot enough for that, but it doesn't burn your soul. So I'm a bit stunned. I don't know how to react to this, but it is positive. And the reason why I love London weather is that, again, it's not too cold in the winter. In fact, it never used to snow here because it's never cold enough. Now, again, because of climate change, I suppose. Now, every year we get a bit of a flurry of snow, but very, very light. 10 years ago, I think we had a huge, was it just one day or even more? Like days were 1 or 2 days worth of snow. It was incredible because it's not typical to London. So things are changing. I have to say, last year we did not have a summer in London at all, which was quite upsetting, and I will make a video on that. And by the looks of it, I'm not sure we will be getting a summer this year either, because I came here on Saturday the 15th of June, and I think the day before it was winter in London. It was proper winter, and winter coat kind of winter. So yes, I hope it gets a little bit better, because I do want a little bit of sun, and a bit of the enjoyable sun that we get in London. It's amazing. Before moving to London, I had never sunbathed because the sun here burns your soul. And in London, I couldn't believe that I could just lie in the sun and enjoy it. It was amazing. Here in Italy, I can't do that because I don't like the feeling of the sun on my skin, because it kills me from the inside out. But hey, I have positive news. It is enjoyable at the moment here. We have some cars driving past, but because this is not a very, again, official and glamorous video, I won't cut and start again. And I talk a lot. I've forgotten what I originally started talking about. But yeah, so I'm back here, and it feels like a completely different life. It feels like someone else's life. It almost doesn't feel like mine at all, because it's so different from what I'm used to. And I have to say, even when I lived here, in the next town here we have primary school and middle school. In Italy we have primary, middle and secondary school. So I was very local up until I was 13. Then when you go to secondary school, you have to go to the main city. You have to go to Bologna proper, or to Ferrara proper, the other town on the city on the other side. And for us, that's a big journey, because again, we have that one bus in the morning that we can take at, I think, 6:50 in the morning. So I had to wake up. Luckily, at the time, when I was in secondary school, I never used to have breakfast. So I think I used to wake up at 6:15, have a quick shower, and then run for the bus. and then that would take me to the next town, and then from there I would have to take another bus that would take me into the main city, and then that slightly changed, so we managed to have only one bus that would take me straight from here to my school. But anyway, it was a full hour basically on the bus every morning and back. And if I think of that time of my life, I can't believe I did that, because it was so, well, it wasn't even tiring at the time because I was so used to it, and also I knew that there was no other way around it, that I didn't know any better. I just took it for granted that it had to be like that. Not for granted, I took it as a given that it had to be like that. Whereas now, if I think about everything that I had to put myself through, God, I mean, what a life. But that's the life in the countryside for you. And so even when I was here, and I still lived here in the middle of nowhere, but then went to Bologna every day, it was so strange to see the difference in people's lives. So my classmates who came from the city, so they'd been born in the city and they'd always lived in the city, were very different from me. And I was very different from them, because I still had this sort of countryside mentality. And not just that, but the fact that they'd never seen a field. So my grandma and my granddad are farmers, so they have fields where they have potatoes and tomatoes and all sorts of vegetables. And my classmates from Bologna proper, they'd never seen that. They'd never experienced anything like that. And for me, it was, I couldn't grasp the fact that they'd never been involved in anything like that. So I came to realise that I really liked the fact that I was born here, because I can see both sides of life. So the life in the countryside and the life in the city. And although now I live in London, and I couldn't bring myself to go back to the countryside, I do like coming back here to nothingness. I love looking out my window and seeing absolutely nothing other than trees. And I like going to my grandma's house, so her house that she built with her own hands, my granddad and my mum, because my mum is the first of 5 siblings. She's the oldest one. They physically built their house with their own bare hands, and then it's surrounded by fields that my granddad primarily still works in. I love that. I love that disconnection from reality that living in a situation like this brings you. As a tourist, if you live here, it's intense. I mean, I don't drive in London because I don't have a car and I don't need a car. Whereas here, you need a car to do everything, anything. If I want to go and see my grandmother, I have to drive there. We used to have, I think in England the closest thing would be an off license, which I think is a convenience store. In America, and I think that's the term the most British people would know. So we used to have one here, so we were self-sufficient in terms of urgent things. So if I needed a bit of milk, I could go and buy it. It was extremely expensive, so we would never do our food shopping here. First of all, because it didn't have everything, but also because it didn't. Well, it would have been extortionate, but we did have everything that we needed. We had, and we still do have a GP. We now have a little cafe, but now the off license is not here anymore. I think the cafe has opened, and next to it, they've expanded. They've opened a little area where you can buy a couple of things like milk and bread, but nothing that would keep you going for long. in England, well, in London where I live, I walk to a retail park where I have my beloved Lidl. So in London, you can either walk everywhere or you can take any kind of public transport. Here, you have to drive everywhere. And it is obviously a first world problem, but it does take its toll on you if you come from somewhere like London where you don't have to do this. So having to drive everywhere is intense. In London, some people still drive, but they choose to drive, so they still have the option to take public transport, but here you don't have a choice. And funnily enough, though, my brother prefers driving. He still lives here. He prefers driving. When he comes to London, he finds the tube very physically exhausting because it makes you sleepy. Well, it makes me sleepy, and it makes him sleepy. So then he sort of, falls in and out of sleep every time he is on the train, and then he has to wake himself up to do whatever it is that he has to do, and he finds that quite annoying. So he prefers driving everywhere. Different personal taste. So yes, I spent my life here. I spent my life in the fields, helping my granddad mainly. So my grandmother is a farmer as well, and she used to love it. So obviously she's old, and I think she finished her primary school, which is 5 years in Italy, and then she started her first year of middle school, but then she decided to quit at 11. She was 11 at the time. Obviously it was possible to do so, and because she wanted to work. It's not even that her family forced her to, because we don't come from money as a in terms of generations, not just my mum, but also my grandparents and their families. So it was very common in the past for children to be forced to go to work. My grandma is the last one of 10 children, I think. Something like that. If it's not 10, it's 11 or 9, but a large number. And no, she decided that she wanted to quit school at 11 because she loved working as a farmer. And we're talking hard work, so in the field, planting things, harvesting things, and picking things, and up and all of that. And I saw it all when I was a child. So it's intense. I'm not a physical person. I'm the brainy one. My brother is the physical one. He's a mechanic, and I do not like any kind of physical strain or physical exercise. That's why I don't like sports. It's not because I think it's beneath me, but it's just that I don't like it, and I was not built for it. Give me a mathematical equation, and I will solve it for you. I can teach languages. I can speak languages. I can turn myself into a drag queen, but do not give me anything physical to do. But so my granddad primarily works the fields, and when I was born, my grandma had already stopped, also because she had 5 children to look after, but she mainly worked at home, helping. So obviously my granddad had to harvest everything from the fields and then take it to our house, and then she would deal with that at home. And when before I was born, they used to have pigs, cows, and chickens and rabbits, I think. But then they stopped all that. But my grandma kept the chickens, so up until I was 18, I think she still had chickens, and that was a big part of our lives as grandchildren. I'm the one who spent the most time with my grandmother, mainly because me and my brother lived the closest to her, and also I am the oldest of all the cousins. So when my mum and my dad needed help with me, first of all, my grandmother was still young enough to to really help actively. And, you know, I really bonded with her, and I really liked spending time with her. So every day she had to go to the coops. She had 2 coops that she built herself. I would love to show you videos of the house that my grandparents live in, and that, again, that they built themselves, because it's beyond any possible dream that someone like me could have. It's not glamorous on the inside, absolutely. It's very Spartan, because we're not even farmers, we are peasants. I mean, that's how poor we are. We're not high maintenance, but the exterior and everything is glorious. It's absolutely glorious, and I can't believe that, based on the humble origins that I have, I can't believe that that is part of my life, of my upbringing, and I'm eternally grateful for it. So she built these 2 chicken coops, and she looked after the chickens, and up until again, I think I was 18, she still had them. Then obviously her health deteriorated a little bit, and she decided to let it all go. But every day we would go to the coop, and, you know, to collect the eggs. I was terrified of chickens. I'm terrified of everything, and so I would go in with a huge stick, trying to, well, it's not that they attacked me, but I was ready to fight back if they came at me. And yes, it was incredible, and I love this connection with nature that I have. I hated working in the fields, which I did as well. I used to love driving tractors, though. Oh, that I absolutely loved. And I used to do that. So again, when my friends tell me I'm a princess, and I tell them these stories, they are gobsmacked, because they would never expect anything like that from me, of all people. And I won't get into this because it's a bit gory, but I have stories about these chickens that we obviously had to kill. I never did the killing, because that was only my grandmother, but then I helped with the rest. So yes, I also have that as part of my growing up. So yes, I am eternally grateful that I have this connection, because I can see that not many people have it, and for me it's such a basic and obvious thing to have. But I realise now how lucky I am that I can have that in my life, and I love coming back to that. I think that if I lived in the middle of the city, even here in Italy, I wouldn't like it as much. I wouldn't like coming back home as much, because here I go back to my roots, and I go back to something completely different from London. And I think this kind of setup really helps you recharge your batteries fully. So it really is like a little holiday, not just because of the fact that I'm with my family, but also because of the fact that I am in such a completely different situation that my brain really switches off. So yes, I'll try and show you now what I can see from my room. Now I'll take you outside with me. Let me see. So this will not be technically pretty, I apologise. So, it's so sunny that I'm not even sure you can see it, but I was filming there inside, and from my window I could see this. It is what it is, just grass. This is I think it's an industrial field. So it's a big company that works this. And in the evening, the sky is amazing because we have all sorts of colours, all sorts of lights coming in the sky, and when the clouds align perfectly, they look amazing. It's incredible. Now, yes, this is where I grew up. It's very, very rustic to say the very least. All sorts of works are happening, and I will take you to the main square because you have to see it. You absolutely have to see it. And I remember once I showed a video. We have no pumpsins in this square. That over there is the bus stop. And that's it. That's my life. Oh gosh, they're doing all sorts of works here, and they are looking at me weird because they don't know what I'm doing. So I'll take you back inside. But yes, so it's a big change from London. Let me close the door. Okay, so we're going back in now. So yes, I literally grew up in the middle of nothing and nowhere. But again, I'm happy. Obviously, if I think about all the technical and logistical struggles that meant when I was here, it does make me wonder how I survived. But again, first world problems. The air fresheners are still going, and my mum is obsessed with them. So yes, I think I've given you enough rustic details about my life, and when I go back to London I will make a video on the christening, and hopefully I will look a little bit better than this because oh my gosh, well, I haven't done any maintenance. This is still my hair from yesterday, from the christening. Gosh, I look rough. But yes, I will see you soon with another video. I'm going back to London tomorrow, and which is Tuesday for me, and on Wednesday I'll be making a video on the christening, and then I have a few more videos already lined up for you. And on that note, I will let you go, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.